One day in recent weeks, I sat down on my couch to enjoy my lunch while watching a movie. The movie I selected was the 2018 film A Quiet Place. I had watched it in the past and I thought highly of it. Many others agree, as the film received high praise from critics and even some awards. I figured that it'd be the perfect movie to enjoy as I ate. I pressed play, and then I started to eat. As I was eating while watching, however, I realized something. Thinking about it deeper, that realization was about the intro sequence. I never fully realized how good the beginning was. The presentation, the events, it works very well in leading into the rest of the movie. It was so good, in fact, that it gave me motivation to talk about it. I want to divulge more into why this movie's beginning sequence is a perfect way to start off a film. I know this is vastly different from my usual content, and trust me, I don't plan on switching from video game horror analysis, but I felt the need to talk about this particular subject, and I hope you enjoy my thoughts on it. If you haven't seen A Quiet Place for yourself, I do urge you to give it a view before watching this video. It's a pretty solid film and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Without further ado, here's why A Quiet Place's intro sequence is a perfect movie setup. The movie starts off by showing a simple black screen with the text Day 89. Then, the first scene starts by panning us into what looks to be a small vacant town. The entire location looks ghostly and hollow just by simply the lack of life. Old newspapers and various other trash replace our usual town residents that we usually see. The roads are filled with barrages of leaves and rusty cars. Dirty old missing posters cover the bricks of the town. It's clear that this place is lifeless from just observing these beginning moments. The final cherry on top is what we're hearing in the background. There is no music present in the scene, and the only thing that we hear is the sound of heavy wind blowing. This adds such a haunting effect on the entire mood of the scene. Going fresh into this movie, your first thoughts would immediately be, where is everyone, and what happened here? Which is exactly what the filmmakers want you to think. They place this narrative in your brain just from a simple 15 to 30 seconds. It's very impressive how they managed to do this with the elements that they use. As you're pondering this very question of what transpired here, our perspective cuts to a small store within the town perimeter called Larkin's Prescription. Going into it, the store is ridden with leaves, tipped over shopping carts, and barren shelves. It is all topped off with a layer of dust and cobwebs. The wind continues to blow in the background, with no other noise. Then, we hear the sound of someone walking on the cold tile with their bare feet. Then, a young girl pans into shot, and she's not alone. This is the moment where we'll meet our main cast of characters going forward. We are introduced to them by watching them search this abandoned store, and the movie slowly introduces us to them as the opening scene plays out. They are a small family. We have the wife, husband, and 3 kids, all of different ages. One is significantly older than the other 2, while one is very young. We can infer the older girl is deaf by seeing her wear a hearing aid on her right ear. We see the youngest pitter-patter around the store like a wind-up toy, while the middle child is sitting down quietly, keeping to himself, and looks like something is wrong. We see the wife and eldest looking for something, or anything in fact, that could be helping them. The wife searches the glass shelves and sees a pill bottle for a prescription and goes out to inspect it. One thing that immediately stands out to us the viewer is the way she observes it. She delicately moves the other bottles away, grabs the top of the needed bottle, and slowly spins it in a careful manner to see the label. The way she does it so carefully gets you thinking as to why she does it this way. It's a curious thing to ponder. She sees the label, then grabs it oh so carefully off the shelf and brings it with her. She walks to the middle child of the family currently sitting on the dirty tile floor and opens the bottle of pills. These pills are meant for him due to him being sick. This adds up to his distressed demeanor that we've observed thus far. She gives him a few to swallow as his heavy breathing continues. Then, the mother turns around to the eldest daughter and starts communicating, but not through speaking. Instead, they start to talk through sign language. The mother reassures her that her brother is going to be okay, and she silently nods and walks away. The eldest then wanders to the aisles and goes to interact with the youngest brother. The brother signs the word rocket, to which the sister praises his sign ability. Then, the brother says something interesting. He signs to her the exact words of, "That's how we'll get away." This surprisingly ominous scene immediately starts your brain back up with more questions. You get to wonder what exactly he meant by it. Could it be just a statement from an imaginative child who wants to explore the stars in his fantasy land? Or is it a statement from an imaginative child who wants to get away from something? Maybe even something of harm? This again proves to the audience that something really is wrong with what we've witnessed. At the current time, however, we don't have the necessary tools to figure out what that something truly is. After this encounter, the youngest walks away to go look for a rocket ship toy matching his comment. He finds one, and after propping himself up with a step stool, he can just touch it enough to move it over to the ledge of the shelf. He happens to move it too far, however, and loses a grip of said toy. The toy begins to plummet to the ground. But as the toy continues to fall, the sister rushes into frame and slides just fast enough to catch the toy before it can make contact with the ground. Afterwards, she now has heavy breathing and a look of concern and fear painted on her face. This is by far the most thought-provoking event that has occurred thus far. The way she threw herself just to ensure that the toy didn't completely fall speaks volumes in of itself. The genuine fear that encapsulated the moments after gets you thinking one vital question. What was she so afraid of? By this point, your brain can put two and two together to realize that the family's concern is making noise. Not only does the mother gingerly moving the pills aside give this impression, but the eldest's recent actions further imply this point. Now that the movie has given us enough tools to understand what they're avoiding, the question of why they're avoiding it looms over the rest of the sequence going forward. After the toy is retrieved, the father walks into the store carrying a box in his arms. The pair walk up to him and he tells the youngest to look for the mother. The father and daughter then start packing up what is assumed to be their findings at the store into a worn black bag. They have a bit of small talk about some of the items, with the daughter mentioning a radio of sorts. As they're packing, the mother approaches with the middle child and urges them to leave due to it being dark soon. The father agrees, then starts collecting his things. The youngest walks up, but something's off. The music in the background is not normal, but ominous, like there was danger. Once the rest of the family sees him, their faces are washed over by concern. The feel of the scene completely changes with this. The way the movie helps build onto this narrative is the soundtrack. The music speaks louder than words do, and tells you everything that you need to know. The dad, once seeing the youngest in front of him, slowly stands up with somewhat fear in his eyes and walks toward the child. He grabs something from his hand, which is revealed to be the rocket toy from earlier in the scene. Once it's out of the child's hands, he delicately takes out the back batteries of the toy and softly sets it down. This tells us the toy made sounds when batteries charged it. The scene being so ominous and tone switching is wonderful to me. So far, the makers of this film have successfully managed these types of moments numerous times. This one feels the most distinct up to this point just because the emotion and feeling it evokes with that realization that something dangerous could happen. The dad quickly tells the kid that he can't have the toy because it is too loud. The mother attempts to quickly comfort him and they make their way outside. Before I talk about anything else, let me once again bring up the music selection for what we're about to see. The song that was crafted really resonates with me for this one. For me personally, it really gives the feeling of true hopelessness and bleakness to these characters and scenes. The minimal notes that loom in the background help to build the scene's atmosphere. I know I've already used this word before in this video, but haunting is the only word I can think of that fits this track. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to play it because of copyright, but if you watch the movie, please listen closer to the soundtrack, please. Now that I've briefly talked about that, let's get more into the rest of the segment. The two parents and the middle child held in the mother's arms head out of the store immediately. The sister, however, stays back for a few moments. She grabs the rocket toy and proceeds to hand it back to the younger brother while the parents are outside. She then gives a gesture to keep it a secret, then follows her parents outside. As the sister's back is turned, the youngest quickly grabs the batteries and follows her. One thing to note while outside is what they're walking on. It seems to be a white, sand-like substance that is meticulously set in a path for them to walk on. You'll also notice that they don't walk with shoes on, opting to walk bare feet. We can assume they do this to ensure they don't make any noise. I love that the movie shows us just the lengths they'll go through to make sure that they're safe from whatever it is they're so afraid of. On their journey, they continue to the woods to cross a bridge. We can hear the crashing waters of the river below as they tread on. They walk in a single file line, with the dad in the front, the mother and daughter in the middle, and the youngest in the back. Nothing of substance is happening, just walking forward with sounds from the atmosphere accompanying it. Then, from the back, the noise of a toy breaks the family's silence. The father slowly turns back, while the sister stands confused due to her not being able to hear the noise. The dad quickly puts down the middle child and runs as fast as he can towards the youngest. The mother is left in absolute shock with her hands over her mouth, and the sister only now realizing what's happening. A sense of panic fills the scene, with tense music overlaying. The father's running as fast as he can, and as he's doing so, the sound of trees and leaves ruffling is in the distance, and the sound is getting louder. There's something coming. The child still stands there, oblivious as to what's hurtling towards him. Before the father can make it, out the woods, a flesh-like monstrosity emerges and brutally snatches the child from where he stands. This moment answers every single question we've had in our heads since the beginning. This is what they live in fear of. The reality they live in is living in constant fear of these horrifying monsters that have a high sensitivity to sound. They slowly emerged us into this reality by giving us hints, context clues, and breadcrumbs throughout the introduction, which slowly got bigger as we went on. The tension and scope of their situation slowly began to rise and grow. This is how an introduction should be. The writers, producers, conductors, and actors did a fantastic job with opening this movie. The tone shifts and the slow integration into the story really made these scenes as good as they are. It's overall a solid opener and fits the movie extremely well. Again, if you haven't watched A Quiet Place, please do so. If the video interests you even a little, you'll be sure to enjoy the rest of the film. And as always, thanks to everyone who's watched this far. This one was vastly different from my other 3 videos, so I'd be happy if someone enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this and aren't subbed, I would greatly appreciate if you subscribed. It would mean a lot to me, and having more community members is nice. Well, that's all from me. Until next time, cheers!